What's up guys, Thomas at Radflo here, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. In today's episode, we'll be starting from the basics. When you're talking about monotube shocks, you usually see them built in two main styles, emulsion and IFP. A monotube shock is usually made up of three main parts, the mounts, the body, and the shaft assembly. But it's what's on that shaft assembly where everything really happens. With a standard emulsion, inside the shock will look very simple. A piston, its valving, and the seal head. This means when the piston is working on the vehicle, the gas and the oil are mixing, eventually emulsifying. In any type of damper, oil is being forced through the piston, and that oil flow is what creates damping. The damping is what controls the vehicle, but the oil alone isn't enough. Valving is the heart of the shock. It's how you control oil flow, and oil flow is what controls the vehicle. Inside the shock is a shim stack that can bend based on their thickness and diameter. The faster the suspension moves, the more the shims deflect, and that's what creates the damping forces and keep the vehicle smooth on small chatter and controlled on bigger hits. Two shocks can look identical on the outside, same size, same style, even the same travel, but feel completely different because of this valving. At Radflo, we don't just grab shocks off the shelf that were valved in batches. We build and tune each shock per order. That means the shim stack is configured specifically for your vehicle and how you use it, not one size fits all setup. Vehicle weight, spring rate, added accessories like bumpers or a winch, tire size, intended use, all of that changes what the shock needs to do. That's why tuning matters. Every shock also needs a gas charge, usually nitrogen, which has two jobs. Keeps pressure on the oil to reduce cavitation, and it creates a place for the displaced shaft volume to go into as the shaft enters the body. In an emulsion shock, the nitrogen and the oil share the same chamber. So as the piston cycles, the oil and the gas mix together, and over time, that mixing can create aeration and foam. When oil gets aerated, it becomes more compressible and the shock becomes less consistent. Now, let's talk about the internal floating piston, or IFP. An IFP shock still has the same basic parts, but inside the body it adds one more key component. A floating piston that separates the oil from the nitrogen. So instead of the oil and the gas living together, they live in two separate chambers. Oil stays oil and gas stays gas. That simple separation changes everything about the consistency. With an IFP, you drastically reduce aeration. You get more consistent damping over long drives, you get better control when things heat up, and you get a shock that feels the same the start of the trail as it does later in the trail. So if the IFP is better, why do we still see emulsion shocks? Sometimes it's not just an engineering choice based on performance, it's a packaging limitation. Inside a monotube shock, you only have so much room to work with. If the body length is short or the available travel is high for the space, you may not physically have enough space to add an IFP and still maintain the correct gas chamber size and oil volume. In those cases, an emulsion design actually uses the space more efficiently. It lets the shock do its job without forcing compromises like reducing stroke, a smaller gas volume, or an overly short travel. Here at Radflo, we offer both IFP and emulsion shocks. For our OE replacement shocks, we have a 2 and 2.5 inch diameter IFP shock in sizes that are 100% bolt-on. When it comes down to universal length shocks, we offer an emulsion coilover, which would typically be paired with another shock, such as an external bypass, which we will cover in a future video. That's the foundation. Now you know what an emulsion and IFP really mean, why you might see one versus the other, and why valving matters most more than anything else when it comes to ride quality and control. Drop a comment with your year, make, and model, what you carry with the vehicle, and how you drive it. Either a daily, towing, overland, desert, whatever. We'll point you to the right direction. And if you want help getting the correct tune the first time, reach out to the team at Radflo.